Hello and welcome to Just James, where I talk about the weird shit that I do to my body. Not that kind of weird shit. Don't. All right. It is this has been a bit of a wild day in terms of like what I'm currently going through because I just need to sort of figure this out. I am in a good mood. However, it has been tainted by a lot of things, but we'll get to that. Anyways, for today's topic of this podcast is something that I am currently doing, have been interested have been doing, and have had a few accounts in the past that has sort of maybe has worked and sort of just a general warning for anyone who's going into this because I myself am putting myself into this. You probably shouldn't if you're a normal person, but if you're not, then I'll go ahead and explain my rationale as to why I'm doing this. And I think if you are in a similar circumstance, I think you can pretty much work just as fine. So what am I talking about? Well, you already see the title of this video. The title of this video is Polyphasic Sleep and why I'm going in it again. So the keyword there is again because I tried to do a polyphasic sleep and to be fair, it was kind of a stupid attempt when I tried to do it. I tried to do it when I was at school, which was not great because a school is very strict. It has a very strict time. It doesn't allow you to experiment with your sleep. And when you do, it's gonna fuck you up real bad. So I pretty much had to ditch that pretty much, I believe, in 3 days. Like, I tried to get into a sleep schedule that was very demanding. And at the end of the day, it didn't really benefit me all that much because again, if you're going to school 9 times out of 10, half of your day is just at school. So you're not actually doing stuff that, is productive for your own projects and whatever. So I ended up just sort of waking up way too early, not doing anything, and just overall being groggy the entire day. So 3 days, I just flanked nothing. The second time that I did polyphasic sleep, I was actually still in college. It was the first year of college, and since I was at home, I'm in a remote university, I decided, you know what, this is a perfect time for me to try polyphasic sleep. I tried it. I went for one of the more difficult sleep schedules, and I was able to stick with it for like a week. After a week, you start to just degrade. There's just nothing that happens. And I believe it's mostly because I was also flip flopping in terms of my schedule. I didn't really have like an alarm. Like my phone back in the day was really bad. And so it had to be constantly charged. And usually my charger in the older house was really far away from my bed. So it would ring, but I wouldn't hear it because it wasn't near enough to my head that I can hear it. So oftentimes it would just annoy the fuck out of my sister and my parents. So I ended up stopping. So that's the second account that I tried to do polyphasic sleeping. And now is the third. Third time's the charm, am I right? And this time I am doing something more demanding, but I now have sort of a game plan coming into it. I'm also going to adapt the schedule as much as I like until I feel comfortable. And there is actually a good reason as to why I'm doing polyphasic sleeping and doing it for real. And I'm going to try to stick to it. But this is a big disclaimer, huge disclaimer, very massive disclaimer. I am not a sleepologist. Is that even what you call it? A sleep expert. I'm not a doctor. I am not any professional that knows this field enough that I can get paid for it or be able to give proper information about it. In fact, when you look up polyphasic sleeping all over the internet, it is, I'm not gonna lie, the same feeling I had when I was talking about lucid dreaming. It's very wishy washy. The research on it is like mixed. The opinions are varied when it comes to professionals. A lot of them say if you want to do it, you can do it. A lot of them are saying, don't do it, it'll fuck you up. Again, this is a very like personal thing. If you personally want to try, and this is the biggest word, try, then go ahead. And if you believe that there's no consequences, if you don't have, say, a heart condition that can go wrong, because if you're sleeping like really badly, it can actually affect your heart. Hell, it can affect your brain. It can do a lot of bad stuff if you really fuck up your sleep. So I recommend you to take these into account before you're doing polyphasic sleeping. I personally have a strong enough reason to not necessarily look down at these, but to weigh it out and be like, okay, I know the risks going into this. I know that it can potentially be bad, and already I'm feeling a bit bad, but I know exactly what the risks are, and I know that once this goes wrong, I need to just jump ship. Nothing. So keep that in mind. But with that said, I think it is time for me to talk about sort of just why I'm doing this. Why am I doing a polyphasic sleep schedule? Why am I trying this? I have found that I myself am a bit of a night owl. If you don't know what a night owl is, essentially it's a person that functions really well, either creatively, logically, or whatever it is, when it's nighttime, when there is no noise, and when there's no distractions. For some reason, my brain just instantly turns on, and this is very apparent because when I try to sleep, I often need to make sure that my brain is tired enough to actually go to sleep. This has often led to many situations where I would sleep very late because I would try to make my brain asleep and it just wouldn't. And that has been an ongoing issue for me. I never really had the easy to sleep sort of mentality. Like, I am very against sleep, which is probably why I'm trying this anyway, because I really don't want to just sleep for such a long time and then just waste a whole bunch of time. And I think that I have found that when I worked at night, I would just get more stuff done. So, to profit off of that discovery, I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and do a polyphasic sleeping schedule because this will allow you to work throughout the night and still be able to mostly theoretically function normally. And again, the big word there is theoretically. There is no solid evidence that polyphasic sleep works, that polyphasic sleep makes you better, that polyphasic sleep makes you more productive. There's nothing. There is no research that indicates that, only personal accounts. This is why it's very wishy washy when it comes to research about this stuff. And that's why a lot of the people who do go into this need to take into account the risks. Because there is risks of just sleep deprivation in general. That's already been researched. Polyphasic sleep just hasn't been researched as much, which is why it's a bit of a difficult subject to go into and to just figure out what to do. A lot of the people who do want to try polyphasic sleep, they usually try to go for a model that's a lot easier. So, for instance, there's biphasic sleep, which is where you sleep 2 times a day, and anything beyond that is pretty much polyphasic sleep. And this is when you sleep 3 times a day, 4 times a day, that kind of thing. Usually, if it's less the amount of times you need to sleep in a day, usually your body can adapt to it very quickly. And I myself have decided to take on a bit of a more challenging sleep schedule. They call it the Dymaxion sleep schedule. It's similar to the Uberman schedule, but I've seen the Uberman schedule and it looks terrifying. I hate the Uberman schedule. It looks ridiculous. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to do the Dymaxion because I have a bit of a reason as to why I feel like this might work. The reason is my reasoning is because the time that I felt like I slept after trying to stay up, I felt like I had a full night's rest in like 10 minutes. So If you ever are interested of knowing about this situation, you can look up my lucid dreaming episode where I talked about my lucid dreaming encounter when I was trying to stay up and to fix my sleep schedule. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay up all night and I ended up crashing at the afternoon. But what happened is that I had a very vivid lucid dream and it only lasted 10 minutes and I felt like it I dreamed for like an hour. And it was wacky, it was wild. If you want to go ahead and look at that, go and look at that in my channel. But besides that, ever since then, I felt like, okay, there is some potential here. There's potential to really exploit that small nugget of like dreaming. And I felt like once I had that dreaming phase, I practically was like, all right, I am fully refreshed. My brain is ready to go, and I didn't really need to sleep anymore after that. In fact, after that happened, I went back to a normal sleep schedule, which is really cool. So I think I just need to figure out what works for me. Personally, I haven't found it yet, and that's why I'm sort of experimenting with what sleep schedules work for me. And especially, I am in a bit of a privileged situation where I can sort of experiment with this stuff. I don't really have that many priorities that I need to attend to, and I can just sort of, experiment and explore. So, yeah, that's practically the reason why I'm doing this. I want to exploit the nighttime creativity that I have, and I also have seen the benefits or just sort of had first hand accounts. Is that even what you call it? First hand accounts of sleeping for a very short time, but having the feeling that you slept for hours and hours. I have personally had that feeling. I don't know if it will reflect on anyone, but I personally had it. So this is specifically a personal anecdote. No research, no scientific info, just that. I am just basing it off of my personal experiences, which is very important. Again, do your research and make sure you know what you're doing. So, anyways, why am I telling you this? Is because, as I said earlier, there is no research when it comes to polyphasic sleeping, but there sure as hell is disadvantages. And they list them down very vividly because, again, these are basically the same symptoms as being sleep deprived. Because when you're trying to get into a new sleep schedule, your body just doesn't want to do it. Your body just goes, nope, and it will try to make you stay awake. It will try to sleep you at odd times. It will just mess you up. And usually, sleep deprivation can cause a whole bunch of problems, especially just mentally. They can sort of alter your hell, it can alter your entire personality if you just have sleep deprivation. So that's primarily the biggest downside. There is also like other things, like for instance, making your heart not very good because obviously, if you're changing your sleep often, your heart is probably gonna be pacing extremely weirdly. So if you have a heart condition, do not do I would highly recommend you to not go into polyphasic sleeping. That does not seem like a smart idea. What else have I read? I've read like I think I've heard from someone that when they tried polyphasic sleeping, they tend to get more nightmares. I think that's just a down like a side effect of being able to lucid dream. You tend to also get more nightmares, but if you're also not down for that, don't do it. There's been a whole bunch of issues when you're trying to experiment like this. And ultimately, if it just doesn't work out or if it doesn't make you feel good, don't continue because that's the point of why you're doing this in the first place. You're doing this to make yourself feel better, to make yourself actually better than what you were last time when you're sleeping on your whatever schedule you have. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. If it makes you groggy, if it makes you feel nauseous, if it makes you just sleepy, listen to your body and just do a sleep schedule that works for you. If you are trying a sleep schedule and you feel like you're just not sticking to it, then maybe you'll learn something. You'll learn that, okay, this sleep schedule is not for me. You can look at another one and maybe just go back to your old one while you're trying it. Again, experiment. That is the biggest thing. Because we are pretty much guinea pigs in this entire situation. There's not enough research that went into this field. So we are practically just putting our bodies into a testing chamber to see what happens. Nobody knows the exact formula of what your best sleep schedule is. Probably will if you go to like a sleepologist, if there's like an actual sleep expert, they will probably know what is the best sleep time for you. If you need like a CPAP machine or something, stuff like that. But besides that, I mean, you pretty much are on your own for the most part. And I think that's actually kind of poetic because theoretically, you are the best at sleeping for yourself. Like, if you are the one who knows exactly when you wake up, exactly when you sleep, you know exactly how to sleep. It's just that, of course, it takes a while for someone to try themselves to force into a specific sleeping schedule, which is why a lot of these don't really work. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. If it doesn't work, that's completely fine. That doesn't mean it's not for you. That's it. It's like if you found something in the buffet and you just feel like, okay, I don't really like this, then that's fine. You can leave the plate and you can grab another one. That's totally fine. But yeah, I think that's about it. I will also update you guys next week or how long it will take until I just break off of this schedule to see if it even works. If this works, then that'd be great. If it doesn't, well, no harm, no foul. Well, probably a little bit of harm, but not that much. So yeah. Oh god, the sun is just beaming on my freaking window. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next one. Ciao.